Well done, Tony. You are our winning comment this week. You get a free copy of Kingdom Come Deliverance. Happy days. Send me an email and I'll get it over to you. All right. Hope you've had a nice weekend. It doesn't know whether it wants to be summer over here in the UK, but the sales on the eShop are always shining. And we've actually got some that have never been on sale. It's really nice to see a couple of these for the first time ever on sale. There's some new releases in it and I've got a new section for you. I'm sure you've seen the eShop. Everyone's bundling up their games into packs. Sometimes they're terrible, but sometimes there are some brilliant ones. So I'm going to do a bundle from each of the EU region and the US region as a little extra section before our Savaloys. Of which, by the way, we've got like 6 this week, and someone was like, what are Savaloys? They're just very cheap games. I'll cover it when we get there. Alright, what are the best games on sale this week? Well, my name is Mark Walker. If you enjoy this content, then tickle buttons. Now, let's find out. Let's start with an absolute banger, and it's Unicorn Overlord, down to its cheapest ever price. It's 25% off until May the 29th. Does that mean it's very cheap? No, it's about 41 quid, or your regional equivalent, but this is by far one of my best games of the year. It's got such a nice hybrid gameplay style that mixes RPG elements, like team building, army building, and a bit of strategy. You can move around an open world map, decide who you fight next, try and recruit different people. You can get mercenaries on your side. You can even create unique units of your own, piecing them together from different members and then gradually upgrade those and expand the amount of troops that they can carry. What's very cool, there are completely unique characters throughout the world that optionally you can have join your party, or sometimes execute them, which is a little bit harsh, but there is no going back. Now, I would suggest if you're interested in this one and the price is just like maybe a bit too high for you, then go check out the full review. It is so worth it. It's such a good game. I'm sure people will let you know down in the comments, and it's going to take you a good 50 to 70 hours to do absolutely everything. That sale for Unicorn Overlord goes on until May the 29th.
Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this one. You'll like this, Glen, as a very healthy eater.
So HelloFresh is a subscription-based food delivery service.
It essentially makes getting your meals much more convenient, and they're there to hopefully help you save a bit of money, eat better food, and have a much less stressful experience when it comes time to eat.
Yep, there are 45 plus recipes, and what I really like are the quick and easy meals with 20-minute recipes. I do find that's the most stressful part of trying to eat healthily.
Yeah, fair play, Glen. I have to be honest, I'm one of those people that walks to the fridge, opens it up, looks inside, goes away, repeats that for the next hour, and then I end up eating toast with honey. It's all fresh ingredients from chef-crafted recipes, and as you're in the habit of trying to get suns out, guns out, Glen, there are many protein-smart meals, as well as 30 plus different calorie-smart options.
So click the link in the description or use my code and you'll get 10 free meals and free desserts for life as long as your subscription's active. Oh, and tell them SwitchUp sent you. All the links are down below.
It obviously goes to support the channel as well. It shows them that SwitchUp is a good place to sponsor. So yeah, go click the links, and a thanks to those guys for sponsoring this episode.
Next up, we've got a bunch of my favourite, the tactical turn-based games, the Warhammer series in particular here. We've got Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. That's one of a few games. I think is it Age of Sigma? There's another one on there. But I did enjoy Mechanicus. It's 80% off as well, down to £6.99. The only thing with these games is they're a little bit too ambitious visually for the Switch to be able to handle all the time. So with that in mind, you have to be, able to accept some frame drops. That's probably putting it nicely. If you can do that, I mean, it's not terrible, honestly. I've played worse games for sure. You've got 50 different missions here and loads of DLC as well. I wouldn't say it does anything majorly unique in the genre, but if you're a Warhammer fan, then yeah, you're going to really enjoy some of the units you get to use. That's just 4.8 gigs, and the sale for Warhammer 40k Mechanicus goes on until June the 16th. PS, over here in the EU, we do have a sale on Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, the first-person shooter, but it's only in the EU regions, so it won't be a full mention. But yeah, you should definitely go check that one out and the review of that one as well on the channel. Next up, we've got a new release, and it's Hauntii. We did a little mention of this in our Interesting Games series. If you missed that, there'll be a link somewhere to it. But this one's really taken me. At the moment, it's down 20% to £13.59. And I wasn't expecting anything. You know when you go into a game and you don't really know what you're going to get, but I've been really pleasantly surprised. Now, I've played a little bit more since we talked about it in the Interesting Games video, but what they've done is they've kind of used that mechanic that we saw in Mario Odyssey, where Mario could stick his cap on things and take them over. But here you're obviously officially haunting them, possessing them. You get their abilities, you get to move them around. Sometimes it's used for puzzles and sometimes for combat. And it's just really well done. There's lots of different collectibles in there and it handles like a twin stick shooter. It just works nicely. Now there are a couple of performance issues I believe at the moment. Not huge ones. Like in terms of frame rate, it was targeting 60, but yeah, I still think it's well worth it and it's already getting very good reviews across the board. So yeah, $13.59 for Hauntii until June the 6th. Next up, we've got Persona 5 Royal. That's half price, and I think I got to like 70 hours in this, and then got distracted. Very much like my Xenoblade 3 playthrough, which has become a bit of a meme on the channel. But you know, like these games sometimes they're so massive, and it's not that you're not enjoying them, but something distracts you, and you come back and you've kind of forgotten some of these story elements. That's what I've been like with Persona 5, and that just happens to me so often. I don't know about you, like I find it really difficult now to focus like I used to on games. Like I'll be playing, I feel like I'm interested and I'm definitely enjoying it, but like I've checked my phone and got caught up in a like YouTube shorts spree. Before I know it, I'm kind of back in the game, but I didn't hear any of the dialogue, and you find yourself going through the logs trying to work out what's just happened. Someone was saying on Twitter actually, sorry to go off on a tangent, but I think this is really quite interesting. Someone was saying that every game, like RPG, a big game that has a story, should basically have a mode whereby if you've been away from it for a while, like based on the last save point, you know, and what, if that was a week or whatever, it should give you like a recap. Like you'd have like with a TV series, you know, for the next episode. I think that's a good idea, because the amount of games that I go back to and I'm like, flipping heck, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I just had to restart Elden Ring. I mean, I know there's not a huge story there, but I still didn't have a Scooby where I was or why, so I just started from the beginning again. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that. A little function, maybe in the options, you could choose the like completely lost focus and check my phone button, and it just gives you a little recap. Either that or I just need to pay more attention. But Persona 5 Royal is 50% off. Excellent game, very good, and that's until May the 29th. One that I'm really delighted, good word that, to talk about is Cassette Beasts. The reason being that when we reviewed it when it first came out, we could see the glorious potential of this Pokemon-like with an 80s vibe where you could capture these monsters inside cassette tapes, but unfortunately performance was absolute garbage. Now that's ancient history, it runs so much better than it did before, it's actually fine now. It has its biggest ever discount, down 30% to just £12.59, an absolute bargain. There is a load of new content constantly being released. There's a deluxe edition if you want to spend a little bit more and get that DLC, and it was just, yeah, it was really nice to kind of be able to say in an all patched up episode, yeah, this is decent. This is a really good game. If only they'd have launched it like that. But I mean, how many times have we said that one? If you're interested in Cassette Beasts, it's still worth checking out our full review so you can, you know, hear everything about the actual gameplay, but just kind of ignore the visuals and performance section. The sale for that one only goes on for a day or two until May the 28th. And as I say, that's 30% off. Catherine Full Body, not to be added to your list in front of the wife, because she'll be very confused about what on earth's going on. Don't worry, it's completely harmless. You just play as, well, a bit of a hopeless Lothario who gets himself into a sticky situation with a slightly psychotic lady named Catherine. Shortly after which, you find yourself in an unusual realm with the words "Edge" being shouted out to you every 5 seconds as you shift your way around these puzzle blocks and the world falls down below you. This was the plaything of many streamers when it came out, and it's a great game, really funny, absolutely bonkers. There's loads of weird sheep and stuff. It's like a fever dream. So if you want something that's going to, it actually made me laugh a lot, like, but also like has that unnerving aspect where you're like, okay, this is ludicrous, but it is kind of freaking me out a little bit. So yeah, I do enjoy this one. If you like that the puzzle element, you can actually play that in co-op as well against someone else. This one's quite a chunker. It's 14 gigs to download, and it will take you around 15 hours, I'd say, to finish. The sale for Catherine Full Body goes until May the 29th. In my continuing quest to educate my kids on old games, as they like to call them, we were playing Theme Hospital the other day on the PlayStation 1, and they were like, Oh, it was upsetting me. They were looking at it like, this is rubbish. I was like, come on now, it's not rubbish, it's amazing. But then I thought, do you know what, I had a spark of inspiration, so I booted up 2 Point Hospital on my Switch, which is essentially the same game. And they were like, oh, this is amazing. And then, when I was doing this list just now, I saw that it's actually 80% off for the Jumbo Edition, which I can only assume has a load of extra goodies in it. But still, for £6, $6.99, yes please. This is an absolutely brilliant game. I do much prefer it to Campus. Just the setting of the hospital, the old school bloated head condition and all the other ailments that you have to fix. These are great games, and I know a lot of the same team worked on this that worked on Theme Hospital, so if you're after that, I think this is a great time to pick it up. As for download size and things, it's 3.8 gigs, and that sale goes on until May the 29th. Because I am an uncultured swine, I actually started the series with Valkyria Chronicles 4. I hadn't played any of the other games. I liked the look of it. I like the idea of this kind of 3D tactical turn-based game mixed with RPG elements, but also having that theme of like a war going on. I just like the idea, and I played this way back when. I think it came out back in 2018 on the Switch, and it's great. Now, it's developed and published by Sega. It uses what's known as the Blitz battle system. It's basically a fancy name for a kind of different version of real-time / turn-based, and it works quite well actually. Now, this isn't one that we've reviewed on the channel, which is a bit of a shame really. I thought we'd have another game by now, honestly, in the series, at least on the Switch, unless I've missed it, but they're good, and those strategy battles are actually surprisingly detailed, and they only get more complex by the time you get towards the end of the game. It is one that maybe goes on a little bit longer than I would have liked. Now, I don't say that in a, I know that's like, oh, hang on, how can that be bad? But you know what I mean? Some games are like the perfect length and some kind of drag, and this just dragged a little bit too long. Looking at about 40 to 50 hours to finish it. Still well worth it, especially if you clear a bit of your backlog and don't get distracted like I always do. The sale for that one goes on until May the 29th, that's 80% off. The hidden gem this week then, and it is getting more difficult to find hidden gems because obviously there's only so many. I can say that, I don't know, insert generic name here is a good game, but if I haven't played it, then I haven't got Scooby. But I have played Tiny Thor, and it is absolutely cracking. Now, Tiny Thor is from a very small team. We actually worked with them around the launch of the game. This is the cheapest it's ever been. It's down to £10.88, and it's a 16-bit, beautiful, I have to say, fast-paced platformer, but it has some interesting mechanics whereby you can actually visit a little shop and get different power-ups to make your, I almost called them runs then, it's not a roguelike, to make the stages a bit easier. But then what it also does is it has these more tricky stages that you can go to really challenge yourself, and they are brutally difficult. You've got Mjolnir, is that how you say it? Mjolnir, the hammer thing, and you can throw that around. You'll need that for some of the stages. I remember reaching one level, only about 4 stages in, and thinking, I actually thought the game was broken because it was so hard, but unfortunately I really had to get good, and once I had done so, it's one of those where you're like, oh, how was that even difficult? But yeah, I just wasn't switched on at the time. You'll be ricocheting your hammer around 30 different levels, and I think you'll really enjoy this. There are some good bosses in there as well, and the storyline has a good message. That sale of 35% off on Tiny 4 goes all the way until June the 6th. So then we've got a couple of bundles. I'm not going to go over like all the prices, I'm just going to tell you. In the EU, we've got Assassin's Creed the Anniversary Edition Mega Bundle, which is an absolute beast. It's down 65% to $34.99. It's got the Ezio Collection, Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, and the Rebel Collection. So that's like 6 Assassin's Creed games. And in fairness to Ubisoft, like they're one of the few publishers that have actually released good ports of their games, or at least made sure they were good. I know that one of them was in a right sorry state. They have gyro aiming as well for firing, which is, yeah, pretty impressive. So yeah, that's a good bundle. Another good bundle in the US region, if you like racing and rallying, the WRC Collection, 8, 9 and 10, all of those 3 together are 90% off, so it's just $9.99. Now, from what I remember, 8 was like the best of the 3, 9 was quite good. There were better mechanics on 10, but the visuals absolutely stank. But I think 9 used the V-Rally engine or something. Look, they're Switch versions, but if you really like your rallying, this is a great bundle to pick up. As I say, that's only available in the US regions. So then that takes us on to the games that are very, very cheap, like a juicy red Savaloy sausage here in the UK, or one of the many delicious dishes that you guys always talk about in the comments. And then it's funny, isn't it? We're almost now here on this little sale series. We're like an English pub. if you've never been to an English pub, they're very regional, right? They're very local. Like if you go into someone else's local, you've never been there before, people will turn and they'll look at you.
Are you local? No.
Now, I'm not saying you're being looked at if you're new here, but you're probably thinking, what the hell is a Savaloy Selection? And all the locals are kind of like looking at you. But let me tell you, it's nothing to fear. It's just very cheap games that are similarly priced to your regional, cheap and cheerful, guilty pleasure, fast food takeaway. Makes no sense at all, does it? Anyway, first up, we've got Axiom Verge at 75% off, one of the best Metroidvanias on Switch. The sequel wasn't nearly as good, which I was very disappointed about. So stick with this one, it's just like £3 something until May the 30th. Limbo, which you guys are always banging on about. I do want to mention it just because it's there and it's only 89 pence, which is ridiculous. A very stylistic side-scrolling platform adventure. Call of Juarez Gunslinger at £1.79, yes please. First person shooter, a little on rails, tells quite an interesting story, but mainly you're just shooting things in the face. Lacuna, a really nice old school adventure, has a very cool setting. I bought this one solely on the artwork and the fact that I knew who made it, and they're generally very good. And it's great. That sale goes on until June the 22nd. If you want a bit of tactical turn-based, then Phantom Doctrine is a nice one at 90% off, just £1.79. And then finally, Masters of Anima is 75% off. This is a bit like Pikmin meets an adventure game with a story about these two people. I think there's like a marriage, something happens, can't remember it all. I do have a review of it though. So that one's just £1.44. If you watch this entire video, then you're probably someone that enjoys the channel. With that in mind, click those links down in the description and show our sponsor that it was a good place to sponsor. That would be most appreciated. Thank you to our Patreons and members, all of you that enjoy the content, and as always, just a big thanks for all things Switch, all the time. Keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!